Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Should we wait for the students to come or usually they don't come?
Yes, ma'am. We think we should wait.
Okay.
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଲାଗୁଛି ଆଜି ଅଷ୍ଟମୀ ପୂଜା ପାଇଁ ବୋଧେ କେହି ଜଏନ୍ କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି କି କଣ?
Should we continue with the class? Na kon, what is to be done?
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ମୁଁ ତ ଏକା ଅଛି।
I, if you are interested, I will complete the class. No problem because I am ready for it.
Okay, ମ୍ୟାମ୍
It is from 5 to
କୁହନ୍ତୁ।
7.
Yes.
because the coordinator is also not there. Everybody is busy during puja. So I will just wait for 3. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
we will just wait till 5:10 and we will start.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Dear students, welcome to the IGNO PCP class. We are going to discuss today civil society and its formation. Uh, I hope you have understood. So, since you two are there in this classroom. So you may make your video on and make the class interactive. Then it will be easier for you to understand the things in the proper perspective. Hello, are you there, Mudhusmita?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, why don't you switch on your video? And Sabati, let us have an interaction because that there are no students which actually demotivates me. I am also in a puja mode. I have fast today. Okay. Okay, today we are going to discuss about civil society. What do you understand by You may not open your video, but make the class interactive. What do you understand by civil society? Hello, Madhusmita and Savati. Are you there? Let me tell you,
Ma'am,
civil society. Yes.
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ସିଭିଲ୍ ସୋସାଇଟିକୁ ଏଇଟା ଅର୍ଥରେ ଆମେ ବୁଝିପାରିବା କି ନା ଯୋଉଠି ଲୋକମାନେ କିଛି ସରକାରଙ୍କ ଠାରୁ ହଉ କିମ୍ବା କିଛି ବ୍ୟବସାୟିକ ଅନୁଷ୍ଠାନରୁ ଅଲଗା ହେଇ ସେମାନେ ନିଜର କିଛି ସଂଗଠନ ଗଠନ କରିଥାନ୍ତି ସମାଜର ମଙ୍ଗଳ ପାଇଁ।
Oh, no, no, no. That is that usually we understand by civil society and the organizations, non-profit organizations that are existing in the society. Sometimes they help the people, and sometimes they
Uh,
uh,
Ma'am, we can also say created by citizens to pursue common interests, values, or goals, usually
yes,
independent from direct government control. Ma'am, is
they
it right
are
or wrong?
not on they are not under direct government control, but the rules of the government regulate them. Government works as an umpire between, if the civil society organizations they exploit the people, then government can come into the picture to protect the people. Okay, but government is just a regulator for civil society organizations because government is the highest authority, the state is the highest authority within a society. So let
Yes, ma'am.
me understand, let me tell you about the uh, by civil society you must forget about the NGOs. What you are defining is the definition for a non-governmental organization. ଯାହାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ ସ୍ୱେଚ୍ଛାସେବୀ ଅନୁଷ୍ଠାନ. It's a non-governmental organization. But here in political science, we understand civil society. The word, the concept civil society is a much, much broader concept. ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟିର ଓଡ଼ିଆ କହିଲେ ଆମେ କହିବା ନାଗରିକ ସମାଜ. ନାଗରିକ ସମାଜ ମାନେ it's a society where each member understands itself as a citizen. Let me tell you about one example. Like I have heard about it. I do not. Do not know about the proper thing. A girl was. A girl had come to sit for an examination. Girl was there was had come because in hurry the girl was little late, you know, and she was not allowed to enter into the examination hall, or maybe she didn't have the Aadhaar or something of that sort. She was not. She didn't have the Aadhaar, so she was not allowed to enter into the examination hall. You know, the girl started the sense of citizenship was within the girl. She said, "This is my country, this is my school, and I have the right to education. If I have not got the Aadhaar, you allow me to sit for the examination, then you may scrap my answer script if I am a fake person." But the school did not allow, the authorities did not allow. What the girl did? The girl said that now I will sit here on dharna if you do not allow me to enter into the examination hall. You can say that this is the sense of civil society, that this society belongs to me. I am the creator of this society. I am the rule maker for this society. If I am a child, right to education, I have the right to education. If I have not got the Aadhaar with me, then you later on you check. But right now the examination is going on, so you allow me to enter into the examination hall. So that this sense of asserting your right, considering that this is your society, it's a ethical political community, this is called civil society. जो डेफिनेशनटा तुम्हें मधुस्मिता देल से डेफिनेशन टू एई जो अंडरस्टैंडिंगटा संपूर्ण भावरे भिन्न. And this understanding you can make out, this understanding is just a reinforcement, a restatement of what uh, uh, we all as Indians know about Chanakya Kautilya. What Kautilya talked about. Kautilya was teaching the students in his Gurukul. During that period, there was a very dictatorial ruler, ଏକ ଛତ୍ରବାଦୀ ଶାସକ ଥିଲେ ମହାପଦ୍ମନନ୍ଦ, and Kautilya was seeing that that king was engaged in luxury, not discharging his royal duties. So Kautilya raised his voice against the injustice or the misrule, or you can say ajira dinare kahiparibo mal governance or misgovernance or bad governance, which was going in that period in that area. So Kautilya decided, as a member of a civil society, though he was a teacher, as a member of a civil society, Kautilya decided to train a student and to make him such capable that he can dethrone the dictatorial ruler. You can call this as a civil society. This is how Aristotle uh, explains civil society. Those the concept of civil society, mane rakha samaste, it will help you in net examination. The concept of civil society is a 18th century concept. Between 1750 to 1850, for 100 years, in Britain, France, and Germany, this concept became very, very popular. Uh, you know, later on also people have deliberated on this concept. କାହିଁକି ମୁଁ 1750 ରୁ 1850 ବୋଲି କହୁଛି Now, this is the period when the English people, they started discussing about the philosophy of Hobbes and Locke. All of you know that Thomas Hobbes and John Locke are English political philosophers. Now, let me tell you one thing. Uh, you might not find my teaching just a repetition of your study material. କାହିଁକି ନା what I am telling you out of my own understanding of the subject. ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ବୁଝି ହଉନାହିଁ, stop me and ask me what I am saying. Today the first day, so we will go slow. Most important thing is that you must understand what is civil society, नागरिक समाज कहिले कौन, so that when you continue with 4 blocks, it will not be a problem for you to understand your study material. Again and again I am saying your study material is very qualitative. It gives you good knowledge, but it is also difficult to understand. So if you are being attentive in this class, it will help you to understand your study material. Now, for 100 years, 1750 to 1850, this idea of civil society became very popular in Britain, in France, and Germany. Who are these philosophers who make this idea popular? These are the contractualists: Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jacques Rousseau. Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, they are English philosophers. Rousseau, French philosopher, and who in Germany talked about civil society? It is the great political philosopher, the radical political philosopher, Karl Marx. Okay. So now let me tell you, don't misunderstand that between 1750 to 1850 Thomas Hobbes was there. No. The book by Thomas Hobbes, for which he is quite known, is Leviathan, and it was published in the year 1651. ମାନେ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି 1750 to 1850. It was much before, 100 years before. So in 1651, the book was published. There he discussed about the civil society. I will tell you what is the civil society is. In 1689, 40 years, nearly 38 years after, John Locke wrote about civil society, wrote about civil society in his writing, Two Treatises on Government. Now let me tell you why. You all know that the 17th century is the period of civil war in Great Britain. When Thomas Hobbes was writing, there was much chaos in the society. There was a conflict between Britain and Spain. Spain was trying to attack Britain. This was the period. So, this chaotic national situation is reflected in Hobbesian writings. Now, Hobbes want to make a strong state, a strong ruler, because the ruler should be such strong that it can protect its people. The people are having fear in their mind. They all the time they are feeling insecure. They think that right to life is endangered. 38 years back, when John Locke wrote his writing, you must be reading about Hobbes and Locke in your Western political thought. John Locke, when he wrote his book, that time Civil war has reached its climax. Now, 1688 is the Petition of Rights, has reached its climax, and the people the liberals, had won the civil war, and the conservatives had lost it. So, finally, democracy had won in Great Britain. So, in both the books, you find how the feeling of people, whether the people during in Locke's philosophy are fearful. No, they are not fearful, but they want a common interpreter of law to in to maintain discipline in the civil society. But Rousseau's situation is different. Rousseau wrote in 1762, and we all know that 1789 is the French Revolution. And during the French Revolution, you know, there was a common uprising. Common man raised their voice against the inequality or social hierarchy in the French society. Rousseau wrote in his book, men are born free, but everywhere in chains. Gave us an idea of general will. So here you can say that the will of the civil society is the general will. General will is not the will of the state, rather the will of the civil society is the general will. ତାପରେ ତ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା ଯେ after 17 after Rousseau we find many political philosophers have talked about civil society, but we will be able to understand civil society if we discuss about Aristotle. Since you are second year students or second semester students, in which year you are? So you are you must have read the philosophy of Plato, and Plato has not talked about civil society in a true sense of the term, but Aristotle has talked about about a type of civil society. You know, a koinonia. The word that Aristotle used, it means that it's an ethical political community which has evolved over the years. Okay, so what it is, this families expanded for satisfaction of their needs and for maintenance of law and order, they formulated a village. Now, when their production enhanced, when they wanted to when they wanted to market their productions or to fulfill their unmet needs, that means, suppose in one area wheat is produced, they wanted rice, they wanted paddy. Suppose in one area oil is there, in another area oil is not there, oil is also required. So no, world is interdependent. Initially, people have not understood it. So they started, they wanted to enhance their sphere, and they created a city where everybody can come and sell their product. There will be exchange of things, because we know during Aristotelian era there was a barter system. Goods were exchanged for goods. After the city is formed, when the people again felt that we need a better organization, better authority, then they established a state, city state, which Aristotle calls as police or koinonia. That means it's an expanded village. It is individual writ large. Why do I say it is individual writ large? Because Aristotle says A man is a social animal. Man without a society is either a beast or a god. Man cannot stay alone. So they formed a family. Then the family expanded. Then the family formed a village. Then many villages formed a city. Then many cities and villages together formulated or established a state. So who established a state? Long before Hobbes Locke Rousseau said that civil society established a state, here Aristotle is saying it is the people who established a state. That means here Aristotle is talking about civil society. Remember, take note of it. Here Aristotle is talking about civil society. Let us remember the great line of Aristotle's philosophy: state originated in the bare needs of life and continues to exist for the sake of good life. State originated in the bare needs of life. What? Man is a social animal. That means uh, singularly, man cannot produce things. So man enters into relationship with fellow human beings for production. And then man wants to multiply its race, wants to expand its family. So another function of the family is reproduction. Man and women come together to produce their race, and that is how reproduction happens. So production and reproduction, ତାମାନେ ଉତ୍ପାଦନ ଆଉ ପ୍ରଜନନ, ଏ ଦୁଇଟା ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ମଣିଷର ଯୋଉଟା ହେଉଛି ନ୍ୟାଚୁରାଲ ନିଡ୍ସ. These two natural needs actually later on developed into a state. So Aristotle said state originated in the bare needs of life and continues to exist for the sake of good life. আচ্ছা এই দুইটা বেয়ার নিড যদি ফুলফিল ହେଇଗଲା ତାହେଲେ ଆଉ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ର କିଛି ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ନାହିଁ. But Aristotle says no. The moment these two needs are fulfilled, human beings are having rationality. They want a comfortable and good, they want good life. So they continue to have the state, because state is the only organization which can maintain, uh, which can ensure good life. So I hope you understand now the traditional concept of civil society. I hope you understand it. So what it is, think about the period of Aristotle. Aristotle's period is, you can say, it is mm, 3rd century BC. Uh, it is 4th century BC. Similarly, if you come again, Aristotle's period is 384 BC to 322 BC, and Kautilya's period is 375 BC to 283 BC. Again, let us discuss about Kautilya. What Kautilya wanted? Kautilya. ମୁଁ କୁଆଡ଼େ ଯିବିନି. Kautilya's concern was also like that. Kautilya thought that a dictatorial ruler who is not aiming at welfare of the people, not aiming at good life, is, doesn't have the right to become a ruler. So he wanted to dethrone the dictatorial ruler. So all the time, civil you are we are observing that civil society is becoming, where the people coming together are taking a very reasoned decision or a rational decision, as if it is a civilized society. Then we call it as a civil society. So there is nothing wrong if people came together to establish a village, a city, then a state for good life. It is not different what Kautilya did. Kautilya wanted to establish a peaceful rule, or a rule in favor of human well-being in uh, the then India. So that that way, if you consider, Kautilya is not different from Kautilya's concern is not different from Aristotle's concern, and both are talking about good life, and both are a part of the civil society. So, if you consider this as the traditional concept of civil society, then you will your idea on civil society will be clear, that though NGOs are called as civil society organizations, but uh, they are not civil society organ. They are not. They are a part of the civil society, but they are just not the replica of the civil society. In the civil society, there may be thousands of NGOs. Since 19th century, we have started registering under Societies Registration Act, these NGOs. It means these NGOs are actually uh, working for the people. There is no doubt about it. They're working for the well-being of the people. They're making the people conscious. They're making the people aware of their rights. We do not deny all these things. But when you have a number of such NGOs, who is the umpire? Who will resolve any dispute if two NGOs fight? Then in that case, the umpire is the state. Remember, the umpire is the state. So, whether not to confuse with these two concepts, civil society and civil society organizations. Civil society is a much broader concept. Even civil society organization does not represent the whole of civil society. This idea will be clear when you think more and more in terms of uh, Aristotle or Kautilya Chanakya. Kautilya says that as a member of this society, I have the bounden duty to save my state, to work for my motherland. And you may call this motherland as the civil society. Here we are not using the word state, remember. So they must understand that there is a difference between society and state. Society is social, state is political, a political concept. Society is a social concept. Now, during the Greek period, there was no distinction between society and state. Both were used interchangeably. So, the word civil society was not used. Sometimes they were using society, like Aristotle said, a man without a society is either a beast or a god, because he said man is a social animal. Sometimes they use the word society sometimes they use the word state. They use the word society and state as if they are synonyms. But today we know they are not synonyms, they are not antonyms. ସେ ସମାର୍ଥବୋଧକ ନୁହନ୍ତି କି ବିପରୀତାର୍ଥବୋଧକ ନୁହନ୍ତି. They are just two different terms, and we have to understand unless and until we are politically recognized by other states, then state is not established. Like now today, some are saying Palestine is not a state. Some are saying Palestine is a state. I hope you understand it. Now the point is, um, let us understand. Now we will proceed. What happened after that? Now we understand that civil society means at that point of time, though uh, participation in public affairs was the access to public office was not given to everybody. Women were not voters. The producing class were not voters, and only the members of the royal family were participating in public affairs. But the idea of citizenship that is given in Aristotle is a much, much broader concept. Okay? Now, let us proceed. What happened later on? Now, this idea of civil society continued. It was also present in Thomas Aquinas. It was also present in Cicero. But however, the understanding became very confusing in the medieval era. The understanding became very confusing in the medieval era. That means you can say after in the 16th, 6th and 7th century AD, in the medieval era, because in the medieval era, the world, the societies became more non-secular, not secular. In ancient days, religion was there, spiritualism was dominant, but however, I would say the societies were secular. But in the medieval era, the societies were not secular in the sense that church wanted to have power, state wanted to have power. So there was a conflict between state and church, the political authority and the ecclesiastical authority, or you can say religious authority. The head of the political authority is the king. The head of the ecclesiastical authority was the church, that means the Pope Father. So both wanted to have their dominance over the society. Gradually, the civil society, which had established the state, as Aristotle was saying, became very polluted, and they were confused. They were their idea. King preached something, church preached something. So in between, the people were sandwiched because there was conflict between the temporal power and the political power. So that was the reason for which such situation happened. But however, when we are moving from, we know that Renaissance happened. This is in 15th century. Machiavelli, the Italian philosopher, wrote the book Prince. It said, Machiavelli's philosophy said that man is the maker of his own destiny. Gradually, there was an attack on the ecclesiastical authority. Machiavelli said that prince should be clever like a fox, cunning like a fox, and strong like a lion. That means the state should have coercive authority. Okay. The state should have coercive authority. And uh, after Machiavelli, you see that is the beginning of Renaissance. Scientific temper developed in human beings, and later on, what we find that there was much chaos in every society. There was much conflict in every society between the king and the middle class, or you can say common man. So, uh, basically, Great Britain was the area, and in Great Britain, a civil war continued for a long period, and the mm, Thomas Hobbes, the political philosopher, a victim of the civil war, he was born during this crisis period. So it is said his mother gave birth to two children, one is Hobbes, other is fear. So this fear continued in his mind. So you can see how he explained state of nature. So here comes actually the more discussion on civil society in 17th century when Thomas Hobbes talked about state of nature. Now these people, they no longer, Aristotle said that state is natural, but these philosophers of 17th century, they did not say that state is natural. They said state is man-made. It is a result of political consciousness of the people. So they said political consciousness of the people. So they said that, uh, that their major concern was that, they to explain that state is artificial, state is man-made. They said that state is the result of social contract. Thomas Hobbes is the first person who said that state is the result of social contract. There was much chaos in the society. So that society he did not name as civil society. That society he named as state of nature, where the state of nature, according to Thomas Hobbes, is nasty, brutish, and short. That means there was much chaos. People did not trust each other. They were after each other's life. They were trying to harm each other. People had three inalienable rights, three natural rights: right to life, right to liberty, right to property. What to talk about right to liberty and right to property? There was no right to life at all. There was no right to life at all. So, what to do? What is the situation in such a case? There is no right to life at all. So, therefore, Thomas Hobbes said that each one of the member of the society entered into a contract with the other fellow that let us surrender our rights, not right to life, but other two rights, right to liberty and a right to property, to a third party which will protect our life. So this was the understanding of. So who took the decision? When the people decided that we must come out of this and establish a civil society, a disciplined society, a civilized society, and we must establish, we must formulate a state. That means who formulated a state? It is the civil society which created the state. It is not state which has created the civil society. It is the civil society which has created the state. Remember, it is the civil society which has created the state. But when we are talking about non-governmental organizations or civil society organizations, these organizations are existing within the state as per the rules or laws made by the state. So it is Thomas Hobbes who, for the first time, talked about civil society but did not use the term civil society. After 38 years, you find John Locke, another English political philosopher, he wrote in his book Two Treatises on Government, and there he talked about civil society. There he said that, unlike Hobbes, he said the state of nature was a state of bliss. ଭଲ ଥିଲା, କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ନଥିଲା. But what was the problem? In the state of nature, another thing was also there. Along with natural rights, there is a law of nature. So the law of nature was interpreted by everyone. That created problem. So John Locke says, just to have a common interpreter, the members decided to establish a civil society, enter into a contract with each other, then, and this contract is irrevocable for both Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. And for John Locke, this is the first stage of the contract. Then the people enter into a contract with the ruler, whom they made the ruler with coercive authority, that if you do not protect us, if you are incapable of protecting our lives or natural rights, we will take away all your powers and we will make somebody as the ruler. So, creation of state is permanent, but entrusting power with a person with coercive authority is temporary. Remember it, it is temporary. So, this is how the things turned out in Locke's philosophy. In 1762, in France, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a French philosopher, he talked again about the civil society. He coined a term, general will. He said general will is the will of the state. That means it is not exactly the will of the ruler. Rather, it is the will of some which aims at well-being of the people. That means it is the will of the civil society. ନାଗରିକ ସମାଜର ଏଇଟା ହେଉଛି ଇଚ୍ଛା. When the state is not representing the general will, people are unhappy. In that case, naturally, the people will not accept the ruler. So remember, ancient, then medieval, then we are into the modern era where we are talking about the civil concept of civil society in true sense of the term. All of you know in 1789 we had the French Revolution, and during the French Revolution we were actually during the French Revolution, we were actually it was actually the revolution was against inequality in society. So the French Declaration of Human Rights talked about liberty, equality, and fraternity. And in this French Declaration of Human Rights, they said that It is a civil society which is actually establishing a state. So this is how you find that all the contractualists, they interpreted the society where the state exists is a much broader concept, more wise, more rational than the state. Sometimes state represented by the ruler might behave differently. Sometimes, if it behaves irrationally, then the civil society will set it right. That is what happened during American War of Independence. That is 1776. That is what happened in France during French Revolution. They also wanted to uh, get rid of the inequality existing in society. All of you must be knowing that the common men were paying the tax, and the nobles and the clergy, those who were two upper castes, the upper classes, they were not paying any tax. So, due to this, people raised their voice. See, the civil society raised its voice. Now, what you find here that in you find a totally different uh, perspective in Friedrich Hegel's writings. Hegel was again a German philosopher. Now, that is what you, and he used the word civil society in a very intensive way. He said that state is a higher body than the civil society. State represents the common interest, but civil society is just a totality of all private interests taken together. So, civil society reflects the particular interest, state reflects the general interest. So, he said that spirit, Hegel talked about the uh, dialectics of ideas. Ideas are in motion, not matter is in motion. It is ideas that is in motion. So individuals, they, individuals they develop. They have their private interests, and these private interests are uh, coming together, forming a totality to form a civil society. So, civil society is actually not, there will be conflict in the civil society because if private interests oppose each other, then there will be conflict, undoubtedly. So, therefore, Hegel thinks, Hegel, you can say it is the 18th century, the 19th century philosopher. His book Lectures on Philosophy of History was published in 1837. So Hegel said that civil society, we are moving from particular to general. So civil society is becoming more refined, more purified, and the state is formulated. So therefore, Hegel said that state is the march of God on earth, not civil society. Whereas Aristotle said something else. State is the march of God on earth. So, obeying freedom lies in obeying the state, because state represents the spirit, the highest manifestation of the spirit. This is what, and while obeying the rules made by the state, individuals will never feel that they are bounded. Individuals will feel that they are individuals will feel that they are uh, They are free by obeying the state. Okay. So this is what is you understand uh, from Hegel's philosophy. You will all read about Hegel as a part of your Western political philosophy paper. During the same period, in 1833, another German philosopher, Karl Marx, was born. He was a very, he was a very, he had a very analytical mind. He read Hegel, and he used Hegel's philosophy of dialectics in a different way. He said, matter is in motion. And he talked about dialectics of matter. And he said, here in this world, people gradually gain consciousness, that means, and form a civil society where they will defeat the exploiters, the bourgeois, and they will capture power, and state will wither away. Just see, just the opposite of Hegel. Again, in the philosophy of Karl Marx, state is considered as a villain, not as a good institution. Karl Marx considers the state as an exploitative institution. I hope you understand.
Yes, ma'am.
State is considered as an exploitative institution. Kichi doubts ରହୁଛି?
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
ବୁଝି ହେଉଛି? Okay. State is considered as an exploitative institution. But it is just the opposite to Hegel. Hegel said that state is march of God on earth. State is better than the civil society. Here Karl Marx said that it is the people in the society who will smash the state, who will destroy the state, because state represents only a few, not all. So in Karl Marx writings, you find uh, the concept of civil society in a much, much broader way. You find that. So as a result, you will see how the concept of civil society has developed. So jadi if you are well, if you have understood Western political thought properly, it will not be difficult for you to understand what is civil society. So in your unit 1, there is something called in understand the unit 1 in block 1 is understanding civil society, where we have discussed about uh, civil society, uh, Hegel, and modern notion of civil society, everything. Even in 18th century, towards the end of 18th century, that is there in your study material, towards the end of 18th century, a book was published, say, by Thomas Paine, Rights of Man. In the book Rights of Man, Thomas Paine actually says that when you're talking about rights of man, you are he says that unless and until the state is restricted, the arbitrary power of the state is if the arbitrary power of the state is not restricted, ତାମାନେ ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ରର ଏକଛତ୍ରବାଦୀ ଶାସନଟାକୁ ଯଦି ଆମେ ସୀମିତ ନ କରିବା, ତାହେଲେ people will not be able to enjoy their rights. Thomas Paine thought, at that point of time, Thomas Paine, an American philosopher, you can just make out 1791. 1791, America was just uh, attained independence from British imperialism. The state is in the process of formation. So during this juncture, Thomas Paine published his book, Rights of Man. Since he wrote Rights of Man, in answer to Thomas Paine, Mary Wollstonecraft uh, wrote another book, Vindication of Rights of Women. Now, that's a great book. So this is how the American society towards the end of 18th century was in a, at the highest stage of knowledge. So Thomas Paine thought that civil society and state are opposed to each other. Simply you remember this idea, and then when you read your study material, it will not be difficult for you to understand. Thomas Paine said civil society.
Ma'am, civil society means what? Because I came 15 minutes
Why
late,
this?
ma'am. That's
What is the sound coming? Yes, Lakshmi.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, civil society means what?
Means what? Means ମୁଁ ତ ଏତେ କଥା କହିସାରିଲିଣି. Are you not there?
No, ma'am. When you discussing about
କଣ
this
ତମେ କଣ
definition,
ମାନେ why don't you talk to me, if you are not able to talk in English, talk to me in Odia. Where you are, you there in the class or not?
yes, ma'am. ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଯେତେବେଳେ
So then
ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଡେଫିନେସନ ଟା ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ବୁଝୁଥିଲେ ସେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ଆସି ନଥିଲି ତ ସେଥିପାଇଁ।
ଡେଫିନେସନ ବୋଲି ତାର କ'ଣ? ଡେଫିନେସନଟା ହେଉଛି ବିଭିନ୍ନ ବିଗିନିଂରୁ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟିକୁ ଏଇଭଳି ଭାବରେ କୁହାଯାଉଛି ଯେ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି କହିଲେ ସଭ୍ୟ ସମାଜ, ନାଗରିକ ସମାଜ, ଯେଉଁ ନାଗରିକ ସମାଜ ପରସ୍ପରକୁ ଭଲ ପାଏ, ପରସ୍ପର ଅଧିକାର ପାଇଁ ସଂଘର୍ଷ କରେ, ଆଉ ପରସ୍ପରର ମଙ୍ଗଳ ସର୍ବାଙ୍ଗୀନ ଉନ୍ନତି ପାଇଁ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରେ। ବୁଝିଗଲା ଏବେ?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାମ୍, ୟେସ୍।
ତେଣୁ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି କହିଲେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସ୍ୱେଚ୍ଛାସେବୀ
ଆଉ ସେ
ସଂଗଠନ।
ତାର ଡେଫିନେସନ ଟା କେମିତି ଲେଖି? ମୁଁ ଇଂଲିଶ ମିଡିୟମରେ ନେଇଛି ତ ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ପଚାରିଲି।
ହଁ, you will write like this only, that is there in your study
Study
material.
material.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So English medium বলতে কিছু অসুবিধা নাই, that is there in the civil society is a society, an association of individuals which work for the general well-being of all, which work for fight for justice, which work for the maintenance of their rights. And this civil society together has entered into a contract with each other, and they have established a state. That is what the social contractualists have said. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank
ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ
you.
ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଖାଲି ବୁଝଉଛି ଯେ ଇଭଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଅଫ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି। ଇଭଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଅଫ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି we started with 4th century BC from Aristotle.
Yes, ma'am.
And Aristotle, the Western political philosopher. In India, I talked about Kautilya.
Yes, ma'am.
Aristotle said that the state exists for the sake of good life. State originated in the bare needs of life. Bare need କ'ଣ? Now we must eat to live. We must ମାନେ ବଞ୍ଚିବା ପାଇଁ ଖାଇବା ଦରକାର। So for that we will produce, ଉତ୍ପାଦନ କରିବା, and to
Yes, ma'am.
continue our race we uh, man and women, they come together and they engage themselves for reproduction. So production and reproduction are two natural needs of human beings. And Aristotle is saying state has originated in the bare needs of life. A bare need mane a natural need, which are not avoidable, because Aristotle says A man without a society is either a beast or a god. And
Yes, ma'am.
এই সাধারণ যেটা একবার প্রাকৃতিক আবশ্যকতা, from there the state starts and then it continues. Why it continues? It continues for the sake of good life. Because as Aristotle said, one man and women met, formed a family. Then the family expanded. A village is formed. Then number of villages happened. So, for to fulfill their need, for the higher need, we are creating another in place. So we created the city. Then for the proper maintenance of villages and cities, we established the state. Okay, ଏବେ ବୁଝିଗଲା?
Yes, ma'am.
So similarly, ଯେମିତି ଫ୍ୟାମିଲିରୁ ଆସିକି ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ରେ ପହଞ୍ଚିଲା, ସେମିତି ଭାବରେ କୌଟିଲ୍ୟ ମଧ୍ୟ କହିଲେ ଯେ state is our motherland. For the sake of the state, we must fight out. So he was in favor of dethroning the ruler Mahapadmananda, and for that he prepared his student for the purpose. କୌଟିଲ୍ୟଙ୍କର ଯାଏ ଆସେ କେତେ, ସେ କାହିଁ ତା ପଛରେ ଲାଗିଥାନ୍ତେ? It is because he thought, he is a member of civil society, he thought that such a ruler must be thrown out. So my point is that civil society, not to get confused with two terms, civil society and civil society organizations. NGOs and civil society organizations are just synonyms. But one point is that civil society organizations may not be registered. ଯଦି ସବୁ ପିଲାମାନେ ଇଗ୍ନୋର ମିଶିକିରି ଛାତ୍ରଛାତ୍ରୀମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ ଗଠନ କରିବେ, ଯାଇକି ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟର ସାଙ୍ଗରେ କଥା ହେବେ, ତାଙ୍କର ଯଦି କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ହେଲା, ତାହେଲେ ସେଟାକୁ ଆମେ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ କହିବା. That may not be registered, but NGOs cannot exist without registration. So non-governmental organizations are registered under Societies Registration Act. ବୁଝିହେଲା? So there is a difference between civil society and civil society
Organization.
CSO ଯୋଉଟା କୁହାଯାଉଛି. That is that when a few individuals come together for the fulfillment of a common interest, then a civil society organization established. But the society ଯୋଉଟାକୁ ଆମେ civil society ବୋଲି କହୁଛୁ, it is a congregation of many such CSO and NGOs, and who maintains, resolves disputes, maintains rules and regulations for the civil society and NGOs. It is the state. When the state takes away some power, then the state is criticized. So do you get the point? Is it clear? So Thomas Paine said that state is always opposed to civil society because state all the time criticizes civil society. ଯେମିତି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଲଦାଖରେ ଗଣ୍ଡଗୋଳ ଚାଲିଛି. Sonam Wangchuk, a social activist, has been arrested. His organization has been declared illegal. So that means it is the state which is opposing the civil society. Sonam Wangchuk को ଆମେ civil society ବୋଲି କାହିଁକି କହୁଛେ? Again, you do not confuse, because Sonam Wangchuk is supported by the people of Ladakh. So then you can call that social activist, if he is having the support of the whole of Ladakh, then you can call such an organization such a person as the representative of civil society. So Thomas Paine in 18th century said that uh, state all the time tries to restrict individual freedom. So therefore, state is opposed to civil society. ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ସମୟରେ D. Tocqueville, another American philosopher, who has to given us the quotation, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So Detox said, Detox has also said a similar thing, that civil society is a broader canvas. Civil society is a broader conscience. It can checkmate the state. ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ରକୁ ଏ ରୋକ ଲଗେଇ ପାରିବ. That is what Detox says. So if Detox has talked much about corruption, he said what is required is that the society must have that awareness and consciousness to know how the state is functioning. ବୁଝିହେଲା? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, finally, Hegel's views on civil society is very important. It might, you might get questions on that. Let me tell you about why is Friedrich Hegel said that civil society reflects particular interest and state reflects the common interest. We can just discuss about a little. Tapare ame second unit ko jiba. Now, as I told you, Thomas Hegel was talking about the dialectics of ideas. Means he said, ideas are in motion. Right now, if we have one idea, what a theory chalche, and that theory is opposed, then another theory establishes. Let me tell you, before Galileo, it was said that sun moves around the earth. Surya Prithvi Charipatare Guruchi. Galileo after research said that in 18th century that earth moves around the sun. So first hela thesis, second hela antithesis. Galileo pore jodi au kehi kon gote bahar karante tahale jemti ebe 9टा ग्रह au nahi. Today we have not 9 planets, we have more than 9 planets. Researchers have found out more planets in the sky, and sun is a large star, so therefore it has its own light. Earth is a planet, so it doesn't have its own light. So these ideas are not falsified in today. If this idea is falsified, ତାହେଲେ ଆମର ଯଦି ପୁଣି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କ'ଣ କଥା ଆସିକି ପହଞ୍ଚିବ, ଏବେ ଆମେ ଜାଣୁଛୁ ଯେ ପୃଥିବୀ ସୂର୍ଯ୍ୟ ଚାରିପଟରେ ଘୁରୁଛି। ପୁଣି ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଯଦି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କିଛି ତତ୍ତ୍ୱ ଆସିକି ପହଞ୍ଚିବ, ତାହେଲେ ସେଇଟା ହେବ ସିନ୍ଥେସିସ୍। Karl Marx borrowed this idea of dialectics from Hegel. Thesis, synthesis, thesis, antithesis, ମାନେ ଯାହାଟା ଅଛି ତାର ଗୋଟେ opposing view, ପୁଣି କିଛି ଦିନ ପରେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଭ୍ୟୁ ବାହାରିବ, ତାମାନେ ସେଟା ଅପୋଜିଂ ଭ୍ୟୁ ନୁହେଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ସମିଶ୍ରଣ, ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଭ୍ୟୁ ଆଉ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଭ୍ୟୁର ସେ ଗୋଟେ ସମିଶ୍ରଣ। ତେଣୁ ଥେସିସ୍, ଆଣ୍ଟିଥେସିସ୍, ଦେନ୍ ସିନ୍ଥେସିସ୍, ତାମାନେ ପଜିଟିଭ, ନେଗେଟିଭ ଦେନ୍ ପଜିଟିଭ୍ ନେଗେଟିଭ୍ ମିଶିଲେ ଗୋଟେ ଭଲ କଥା ବାହାରିବ, the way we are getting electricity. Positive, negative, if they come together, then there is fuse. But if they are set in a proper way at their proper places, then we have light. So this is what actually Hegel tried to talk about. Hegel says that spirit or idea, the ultimate idea, uh, if the ultimate idea becomes reality through human action, through human activity. Initially, man was alone, then man became a group, then, man formed a civil society. Say, porjanto, it was just a totality of particular interest. That means जो आमर जो स्वार्थ गुड़ाक मिसिकी गोटे स्वार्थ होची, तेणु सेठी जोटी जोटी कमन जोटा होची, कमन इंटरेस्ट हो जाउची, किछि लोकंकर कमन इंटरेस्ट सेटा पई से माने फाइट करूचंती, सेटा फुलफिल हो जाउची, बट दैट इंटरेस्ट इज नॉट द अल्टीमेट इंटरेस्ट. सो अल्टीमेट इंटरेस्ट केते बेले पहुंचीबो ना, जेते बेले द स्टेट विल गिव यू गुड रूल. So when the state is established, then Hegel says state is the march of God on earth. जो spirit बा जो आम जोटाको परमेश्वर बोले कहूँ बा आत्मा बोले कहूँ, that has realized its goal, that has achieved the highest salvation. So then that is called the state. The state represents the general idea, general interest, and civil society just represents the particular interests of each member in that society. बुझी हला सिविल हिगल को आइडिया?
Yes, ma'am.
हिगल का आइडिया बुझी हला ना, किछि डाउट्स रहिला?
ନାଇଁ ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ହେଇଗଲା.
So therefore Hegel said, because it is a very important question that you might get, why civil society represents particular interest and state represents the general interest. Can Hegel jaha kahuchanti, it is against all ideas. Hegelଙ୍କର just opposite ଟା Karl Marx କହିଲେ. Karl Marx କହିଲେ civil society represents the higher idea. State is an instrument of exploitation. So state must be destroyed and state should wither away. State should vanish, disappear. State should be destroyed because state is an instrument of exploitation created by the rich ones, bourgeois, to exploit the proletariat or the working class. So therefore Karl Marx was anti-state or against the institution of state. He said we will establish such a society where there will be no state, stateless society. I mean, that is only civil society. So Karl Marx followed the methodology of Hegel and just stopped the opposite of Hegel. Okay? So this is what you find in Karl Marx writings. So more or less we have completed the unit 1, which you will there is every likelihood that you will get a question on Hegel's notion of civil society. You might get a question on classical notion of civil society, जोटी तुमको Aristotle विषय लिखिବାକୁ पड़िବ. Though Kautilya विषय केही लिखु नांदी, but I also consider Kautilya is not a philosopher of civil society. I just wanted to explain that as a part of civil society, how Kautilya talked about. Now, but however, civil society is a modern concept, remember it. କାହିଁକି ନା Aristotle civil society ଶବ୍ଦ ବ୍ୟବହାର କରିନଥିଲେ. It is the social contractualists who use the word civil society. So remember, so therefore, you should be very clear about it. Okay? Then, any question?
No, ma'am. Important questions which can be made.
କହିଲି ପରା important question.
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଯୋଉ ହେଗେଲଙ୍କ ଇଏରେ ପଡିବ ତ ସେଇଟା?
ହଁ, ହିଗେଲଙ୍କ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ଟା ଆସିପାରିବ। କହିଲି ତମେ ଆଟେଣ୍ଟିଭ ରହୁନ ଆଉ।
ନା ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆପଣ କହିଲେନି ସେତେବେଳେ ବଫରିଂ ହେଲା ତ।
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମେ ଡିସ୍କସନ୍ କରିବା ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ୟୁନିଟ୍ରେ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ମେନଲି ଅନ୍ ଗ୍ରାମ୍ସ୍କି। ବୁଝିଗଲା?
ହୁଁ।
It is mainly on Gramsci because Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci, he's an Italian political philosopher. He has talked about civil society and he has talked about civil society and ଗ୍ରାମ୍ସ୍କିଙ୍କ ଯୋଉ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ୟୁନିଟ୍ରେ ଯୋଉ ଗ୍ରାମ୍ସ୍କିଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କୁହାଯାଇଛି ସେଥିରେ ବହୁତ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡ଼େ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ହେଇପାରିବ because Gramsci's concept of hegemony, Gramsci's concept of civil society, all these are important to understand Gramsci's contribution to the concept of civil society. ବୁଝିହେଲା?
Yes, ma'am.
And remember, କାର୍ଲ ମାର୍କ୍ସଙ୍କର ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି କନସେପ୍ଟକୁ ନ ବୁଝିଲେ ଗ୍ରାମ୍ସ୍କିଙ୍କ କନସେପ୍ଟକୁ ବୁଝିବା ବହୁତ କଷ୍ଟ. Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci, the Italian political philosopher, was born in the year 1887. You can say that he is a contemporary of Max Weber. Max Weber was born in 1884 in Germany. Gramsci was born in 1887 in Italy, 3 years younger to Weber. At that time, 18 during the life of Karl Marx's philosophy was not popular. Marx died in the year 1883. After that, Karl Marx's philosophy became very, very popular because everybody wanted to interpret it. ଯେମିତିକି ରଷିଆରେ ଯେଉଁ ଏରିଆଟାକୁ ରଷିଆ ବୋଲି କୁହାହେଉଥିଲା, ରଷିଆରେ ଭ୍ଲାଡିମିର ଆଇଜାକ୍ ଲେନିନ୍ interpreted Karl Marx. ଇଟାଲୀରେ Antonio Gramsci interpreted Karl Marx. And ଆମର କ'ଣ ଜର୍ମାନୀରେ Max Weber interpreted Karl Marx in a different way. He interpreted Karl Marx in a different way. So in every country, you find either critics or followers of Karl Marx who interpreted Marxism in a different way. No other Marxist or follower of Marx in 20th century paid as much attention to the concept of civil society from a Marxist point of view as Antonio Gramsci did. At that point of time, there was a dictatorial ruler in Italy. All of you know. So Gramsci thought that uh, Marxian revolutionary strategy is most appropriate to fight fascism in the Italian context. So, therefore, he thought Marxist revolutionary strategy has to be analyzed not the way Karl Marx has said, but the way it is required to understand Italian society. Marx ଯୋଉ କଥାଟା କହିଲେ ଯେ poor will become more poorer and rich will become more richer, that is how many classes will polarize into two classes, and finally there will be a fight between the haves and have-nots, the bourgeois and proletariat. Since the proletariat are in majority, they will dethrone or they will drive away the bourgeois and capture power. This is how, if uh, the how this proletariat is taking so much time to fight the war. Gramsci tries to find out the reasons for it. So there when he is trying to make the analysis of the process by which the proletariat could gain power in the West, he examined the relationship between civil society and the state. And that is how he compared the situation in the uh, former Union Soviet Socialist Republic USSR. ମାନେ ଏଇଟା ହେଉଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ 1917ରେ ଅକ୍ଟୋବର ରିଭଲ୍ୟୁସନ ହେଇ ସୋଭିଏଟ ୟୁନିୟନ ଗଠନ ହେଲା, ସେଇ ସମୟର କଥା, ସେଇ ସମୟରେ ହିଁ ଗ୍ରାମ୍ସକି ଏ ସିଭିଲ ସୋସାଇଟି କନସେପ୍ଟକୁ ଡେଭଲପ କରିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କଲେ। ଗ୍ରାମ୍ସକି ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ ୟୁରୋପ ଆଉ ରଷିଆ ଭିତରେ ଗୋଟେ କମ୍ପାରିଜନ ଆଣିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କଲେ। ଆଉ କମ୍ପାରିଜନ ଆଣିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିକି ସିଏ ଲେନିନଙ୍କର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରାଟେଜି, ଲେନିନିଷ୍ଟ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରାଟେଜି କୁ inappropriate ବୋଲି କହିଲେ। Because Leninist strategy said that state was everything and civil society nothing. He thought, Gramsci thought, that what Lenin is saying is just the opposite of Karl Marx. Gramsciଙ୍କର ଏ ଫିଲୋସଫିକୁ Gramsci's philosophy was shaped by Benedetto Croce, who was also a contemporary of Gramsci in Italy. As Hegel was influencing German philosophy, so Croce was also influencing Italy. Croce was well versed with the writings of both Hegel and Marx, learned a lot from them, but was also critical of them. He viewed the entire process of history, as a record encompassing human activity, art, economics, philosophy, and emphasized, like Hegel, on the supreme importance of the human spirit. That means the human understanding. Croce just said that Marxism is just a methodology, or you can say principle to have historical inquiry and research. And uh, such Marxism or such idea is not actually useful for Italy. Croce said, Croce said, we must, he supported Mussolini in the early 20s. He was also an associate of George Sorel, giving the impression that his commitment to the philosophy of the left was intact. Gramsci describes critically his intellectual learnings as Crocian, and his philosophical notebooks contain rigorous critique of Crocian philosophy in connection to Marxism. So, what you find is that Gramsci developed his political philosophy more as a part of uh, as an analysis of Crocian thought, and tries to establish the power of civil society uh, vis-a-vis the state. While analyzing fascism, Gramsci develops three general concepts: Kaiserism, war of attrition, and passive revolution. Gramsci says fascism is a passive revolution congenial to the situation of Italy, because all of you know Italy had won, lost in the First World War. So Italy, the people were very aggrieved. So Italy responded to the authoritarian call of Mussolini. So, in the process of analyzing fascism, Gramsci develops three general concepts: Kaiserism, war of attrition, and passive revolution. Pa- fa- Fascism he considered as passive revolution. Kaiserism refers to a situation when some previously dominant or unknown forces capable of asserting domination intervene politically and restores a static equilibrium in a hegemonic crisis situation. So these who are they? They it can be, the example hyperivo how Napoleon mm, became powerful, how Prince Bismarck, who was also a autocratic ruler but a benevolent ruler, became popular. So such a struggle for Gramsci represents war of attrition. Now, fascism is an example of this. He contrasts this with war of movement, which means seizure of power through military confrontation. So, war of attrition is the Bolshevik Revolution of November 1917, which snatched power from the jar of the dictatorial or autocratic czarist rule of Russia. So, for war of attrition, you can say it's just a opposite of, you know, you are trying to save the country from a dictatorial ruler. People are responding to you, and it creates a misnomer that you are the civil society, but that is not actually the truth. The rise of fascism demonstrates that such methods are outmoded The war of position, whether when won by incumbents or insurgents, became decisive. So you just see what is Kaiserism, that is Napoleon I or Prince Bismarck. What is war of attrition? That is capturing power from the uh, uh, dictatorial ruler, uh, capturing power from the dictatorial ruler to capturing power from the dictatorial ruler and trying to establish people's power, but actually it is not people's power, it is another dictatorial rule. So he says the war of attrition against any autocratic rule, you can say, is the Bolshevik revolution by Soviets, and Kaiserism, the example is Prince Bismarck or Napoleon, and passive revolution is fascism by Mussolini. So this is how Gramsci tried to explain the process of history and tries to uh, make us understand what civil society is. So for Gramsci, the fascist rule supported by the people, if people have accepted fascist rule, then it is also not the same voice of the civil society. What the rulers talk said, Prince Bismarck or Napoleon, that is also not the voice of the civil society, or the Bolshevik revolution where the majority snatched power, that is also not the voice of the civil society. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get my point, or is there any doubt?
No, ma'am, getting.
So should we stop here or should we continue?
Yes, ma'am. You can stop, ma'am.
Hmm?
Yes, ma'am, you can stop.
Should I continue or should I stop here? In the next class, we will discuss.
Ma'am, next class we will discuss. Tomorrow, I think, next class.
Tomorrow you have. Tomorrow
Yes,
there
ma'am.
is a class and no one is there. Today you are the only one who is in the class, and this is Puja. You are also busy. ଆଜି କ'ଣ ଅଷ୍ଟମୀ ଉପବାସ କରିଛ ନା କ'ଣ?
ନାଇଁ ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ଆଚ୍ଛା, ମୁଁ ଆଜି ତ ସମସ୍ତେ ସେଥିପାଇଁ କି ଭାରି ବ୍ୟସ୍ତ ନା, no one is there. Why during Dasahara this classes are going and I just cannot understand. Okay, then
Yes,
we will meet tomorrow.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any other difficulty you want to address from any paper or something of that sort?
No, ma'am. I just want to asking you how can we write the answer to scoring get more marks?
You have to read other books which are much simpler.
Mm-hmm.
You read, get Andre Haywood's political theory, you can read. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You can read Andre Haywood is good. You can read Rajiv Bhargav's book. You can read O.P. Gauba's political theory book. You read those books which will give you more simpler understanding. But
Okay, ma'am.
you can also get simpler things in the internet also.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
whatever is there in your study material, you must go by that because questions will come from that. Like there in the first unit, you have Ferguson. Okay, there is no time to teach you everything. There we have Ferguson, and second unit is purely based on Antonio Gramsci. So I will give you, you have to uh, take simpler things from the books, so it will be easier for you to understand. Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
so you can go for Andrea Haywood's book, or you can go for Rajiv Bhargav's book, or you can go Rajiv Bhargav and Ashok Acharya. You can go for uh, you can go for Opi Goba's book. Start run, because this paper is going to be little bit difficult. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.